Hey everyone, hope you're all doing good today. If you're new here, my name is Campbell, welcome to my channel. So today's video is all about a brand new pedal from Origin Effects, who have decided to create a compact version of their flagship amp-in-a-box drive pedal, the RevivalDRIVE. The original model was released in 2018 and their goal with it was to figure out the magic behind classic tube amps from Fender, Marshall and Vox, and then recreate those classic tones in a pedal format. To achieve this level of flexibility in one pedal, they created one that had quite a large enclosure and a lot of controls that went way beyond the usual bass, mid, treble, gain and output that you'll find on most drive pedals. And despite the fact that the new compact version is obviously much smaller, they've still managed to create something that offers a great deal of flexibility when it comes to recreating the tones of those classic tube amps that originally inspired the RevivalDRIVE. I'm going to show you a few of the different amp style overdrive tones that this pedal can deliver, but before I do that, it's important to note that there are a few different ways that you can use it. One is to simply run it in front of an amp like you would do with any other overdrive pedal, and when you're doing that, you have a couple of options. Beneath the main controls on the face of the pedal, you will see that you have some post-drive EQ controls. You've got a three-way toggle switch and a control that reads ADJ, which I'm assuming just stands for adjust. When you're running into an amp or an amp simulator like a Helix, Kemper or Axe-Fx, you should use EQ1 or EQ2. EQ1 is what's going to work best with brighter sounding amps, whilst EQ2 is obviously geared more towards darker sounding amps. The adjust control is there to help you fine tune your high-end frequency response, a feature that I've personally found is really useful for when you're switching from, say, a humbucker equipped guitar to a Strat. It really helps to kind of tame the high end of those single coils. You're going to hear me run the pedal in front of my Axe-Fx 2, and the preset is based on a Fender Deluxe Reverb with a 1x12 cab and a ribbon mic. And since Fender amps are generally quite bright, I'm going to use EQ1. After I've played through the Deluxe Reverb amp simulation, I'm going to explore the other way that you can use this pedal, which is to flick the three-way toggle switch all the way up to the power amp setting, and this is for when you're running the pedal into a flat response power amp, recording interface or mixer. To use it this way, you need to be running some sort of cab simulation like an aux box, for example. I don't own one of those, so the way I've done it is I've simply turned off the Fender Deluxe Reverb amp simulation in the Axe-Fx, but I've left the cab on. So I'll run you through some tones with the pedal basically acting as an amplifier with a few different cab simulations. But first, let's quickly go through each of the main controls and what they do. So output is pretty self-explanatory, overall volume of the pedal. The highs can be set counterclockwise to replicate the sound of a Marshall with everything at noon, or you can set it to the midpoint for more of a plexi style tone. The gain control on this pedal acts like the volume on a non-master volume amp, so that's going to take you from clean to breakup to cranked up amp overdrive. The blend control allows you to mix in your dry amp tone with the pedal overdrive. The lows control allows you to decide how you want your low end frequencies to respond. It's not like your typical bass control that takes away all of the low end when it's turned all the way down. I found that regardless of where the lows control is set, there's always a nice amount of low end in my tone. It's more a case of, do you want a nice tight and controlled low end? If so, set it counterclockwise. Or do you want a thick, less controlled low end like you'd get on a cranked Fender tube amp? If that's what you're after, then turn it up to taste. The more/presence control when it's above 12 o'clock is going to function like the presence knob on a classic Marshall amp. So it's going to release high frequencies from the effects of negative feedback. And when it's below 12 o'clock, it's going to reduce negative feedback around the power amp and therefore increase gain and alter the pedal's transition from clean to overdriven in response to your playing dynamics. And I have personally found that this pedal is very responsive to your playing dynamics, so it does function in the same way that those classic tube amps would. Let's get started by running the pedal into the front end of the Axe-Fx 2, which again, just as a reminder, is on a Fender Deluxe Reverb setting with a 1x12 cab and a ribbon mic. the pedal is set to EQ1. So here's what that sounds like. Now let's turn off the deluxe reverb amp simulation, switch the pedal into power amp mode and run it straight into the cab simulations of the Axe FX2. Alright, so there you have it, the RevivalDRIVE Compact from Origin Effects. As far as amp in a box style overdrive pedals go, I think this is up there with the most versatile on the market. Personally, one of my favorite features on this pedal is the power amp mode. I feel like that could come in really handy if you're on a gig where, let's say you're running a tube amp and some sort of cab simulator like an aux box or an amp expander, and your tube amp decides to die on you. What are you gonna do? Well, if you have one of these on your board, you could just switch the pedal into power amp mode, run that through your cab simulator, and then go into a DI box. Obviously, you would need to keep the pedal on at all times in that case, but it could prove to be a lifesaver in a situation like that. I hope you guys enjoyed this product demo. I'll leave a link to Origin's website in the description box. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by giving it a like, hitting the subscribe button, and clicking the bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.